Welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Cruising is Life podcast, back for another one of our weekly episodes here on the channel. Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Happy Wednesday, midway through the week. And like I said, back for another episode. I feel like given the events of last week and just this time of year as well, I feel like cruising during hurricane season is a good topic to go with.
Yes.
But as always, yes, joined by the Pookies, as chat and everybody likes to call them now, apparently. Justin and Dimitri, what's going on, guys?
Nothing. Yeah. I'm just itching my no-see-em bites.
Yeah, we got eat. We went to. Okay. I guess my video's already out, but we saw the ships come back in for from the Hurricane Helene, and we got eaten alive by bugs out there in Tampa. Yeah. It was brutal.
I mean, Dimitri survived, by the way. We're doing all right after the storm.
Yes, we did.
Yes. I'm surprised.
Tampaians.
Yes.
Yeah, Tampa. The crazy part about that is that Tampa didn't even take a direct hit, and they got messed up pretty bad.
Yeah.
In at least some areas.
Definitely not ideal going into the holidays.
Not too promising if you were to ever take a direct hit.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah. After that, I think that's the concerning part.
Yes, for sure.
Somehow you guys got battered, and then I literally got like a quarter inch of rain and maybe like 30-mile-an-hour gusts out here in Orlando.
Yeah, we got whacked. I don't know what our winds were, at least by me, but I think Tampa and St. Pete had like 70. So we had to have been close to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. My parents were actually on, I guess kind of like looping in what to expect and things like that, but like my parents were on Wonder. We can kind of get into stuff like that in a little bit more detail later, but like my parents were on Wonder of the Seas, and they actually got rerouted to the Eastern Caribbean. They were originally going Western, but that's kind of the nice part about cruising is that when something like this happens, most of the time you get a bit of a break and you can head the other direction.
Yes. Yep, that's the one good thing about cruising that people get really worried about, when they hear a storm coming. Is my cruise going to get canceled? No, as long as the hurricane's not hitting your port on that day or if there's a lot of damage or whatever. But typically they'll just go around them and keep you out to sea or whatever. So you're usually pretty good with cruises. It's pretty rare for them to get full out canceled from a hurricane.
Right. It's usually when, there's delays coming back in or out and things like that. That's usually when you start to see the cancellations.
Right.
And sometimes, they'll usually do whatever they can to modify sailings too. I know. I see Brady in the chat here. We had the pleasure of meeting him last weekend as he was actually on the Grandeur.
Brady!
He was on Grandeur of the Seas and had a late day and ended up with a flight the next day anyways, and came out and hung out with us while we were ship spotting. So it was good to meet you, by the way.
Very, very fun.
But yeah, like stuff like that happens, and it happens all the time. I mean, and it also depends on your sailing too. Like, for example, Brady's sailing was I think a 5-night that turned into a 6-night. That went from it was like a Cozumel, Costa Maya, something like that, which turned into a 6-night cruise. But my parents were on a 7-night out of Port Canaveral, and they just went Eastern instead of Western, and no effect to their cruise. Nothing happened. No extra days.
Yeah, and Brady also went, and he ended up going to the Bahamas.
Right. Yes. Yeah. His sailing actually got rerouted over to Nassau and Freeport, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't put. Coco Cay must have had a schedule.
Oh, it had to. It had to have been a scheduling issue or something. They couldn't.
Yeah, there were 2 ships there basically every day.
That makes sense. That's typical for Coco Cay. I've noticed with Coco Cay especially, like it's hard to. If you're gonna get rerouted, you're not gonna go to Coco Cay because they pack that place. every day.
Especially with celebrity going there now.
Yeah, that's insane. I can't believe they're doing that. I figured maybe it's just like a summer thing because there's less ships during the summertime, but they seem to be doing that like year round, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, back on the topic of like weather at sea and stuff like that. Do you guys have like any examples, like personal experiences going through stuff like that?
I wasn't delayed or anything, but when we were on who was it? We were on the Destiny. We had pretty much our whole family there, and we actually went through the backside. I don't want to say went through. We kind of caught the southern end of this system coming up into the Gulf, and the weather was for being away from the system. It was pretty rough. We were in one of those window cabins down low, and we had the water crashing over the windows that night. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. But we never had any kind of cancellation or extended cruise or shortened cruise or anything like that. And we also got back from our Carnival Triumph cruise in 2004, one day before Hurricane Charlie made landfall. So we almost got an extra day, but we made it back. Thanks,
Almost.
Carnival. Thanks,
Yeah,
Carnival.
Thanks for getting us back
Carnival.
early.
Harley bit my
Yeah.
finger.
Yeah, I guess like that's the beauty of cruising. Like, yeah, sometimes it's unavoidable. Like sometimes like there's just no way for the ship to get back without going through it. Typically, they'll just stay behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of the best examples I can think of is Hurricane Harvey back in 2017.
Yeah.
That destroyed Houston and the Galveston area, and it just that giant storm stalled out for so long to where it was just massive flooding and stuff like that. But like the ships weren't able to go back into the port because it was just sitting there like on top of the port. So they ended up rerouting. Some of them just went over to New Orleans and were able to drop off guests, and some of them were just kind of sitting out to sea, or at least got provisions and stuff like that. But that was a very rare case because I feel like you don't see storms that really stall, especially for that amount of time in one space. Usually it's like maybe a day or so it'll kind of sit like that, but I feel like that stalled out there for like a week.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a long time. I remember Harvey being like a big rain flood thing, and they keep talking about it.
Yeah. That one was crazy. That's so like memorable too, just because of like how long that lasted.
Yeah, and Liberty of the Seas for Harvey actually got diverted to Miami because she was
I
out at
remember that.
Yeah, she was at sea for a few days, and then they were like, all right, like the port's obviously not opening. So they went to Miami, and the passengers either had the option to get off and fly home, and the cruise line paid for it, or you could just stay and just wait until the ship could get back. So, yeah, that was interesting. She came to Miami, she refueled, she resupplied. And that's, like you said, that's kind of an extreme case. You typically don't deal with that. I don't know why it didn't go to New Orleans. Can it not fit there? Is it that... I don't know why they went to Miami.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. I definitely think it could have gotten up the river because I know the Escape is literally going to New Orleans soon. Ah, Justin's wiener dog.
Look, my wiener's here. Say hi to the podcast, Abby Snail.
Say hi to the podcast.
You all stressed out?
For those who are not watching, you're missing out. Seeing Justin's wiener dog.
Wiener action.
When the wiener comes
Wiener dog action.
Of course. I wouldn't want to be mistaken now.
Yeah, don't want to be mistaken. There's
probably children in this chat.
Oh. But yeah.
No, it is a wiener dog.
But yeah, Harvey's definitely like an extreme case. That's like the only storm I could ever think of that's really acted that way.
Yeah, that literally came on shore and just stopped and just slowly drifted up the Texas coast.
Mm-hmm. Like I know, like another one that had recently, kind of acted that way was Dorian, where it blew up to a Cat 5 and just stopped on top of Freeport, but like it didn't really, I guess like in the situation of cruise lines, it didn't really affect the cruises much because it stopped right there before it got to Florida, thank God.
Right.
And then it just kind of went back out. But that was supposed to slam into like Fort Lauderdale area, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yep, that would not have been good. But we got lucky; it slowed down, and it just gave that front enough time to come in and pick it up. So we got lucky because that thing was a beast.
Yeah, it really, really was. I think it actually made landfall in Freeport at a 5, which is, you know.
Yeah, that whole area of islands just got wiped out.
Yeah. It's kind of rare to even see a 5 in the first place, but a 5 to actually make landfall is even more rare, I feel like.
Right, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I guess another cool thing about that one was that you know, like afterwards, I know Royal Caribbean, they were doing like, I don't know the word for it, but they were like taking supplies and like provisions and things like that to Freeport, you know, for the local communities and stuff like that, which is really cool for them to do.
Yeah,
And they
they've
did
done that a
for a
few
while.
times. Didn't one of them
Yeah.
go to I think it was after Irma. Didn't one of the cruise lines send a ship down to one of those islands? I think it was Irma.
Grand
and they
Bahamas.
they evacuated people.
I don't know if they oh, yeah. I think it was a Royal Caribbean ship that evacuated like royal employees, and they just like took them out to sea, you know, because Irma was supposed to hit really hard in Miami.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But I know I think it was Bahamas Paradise Line, which is now, of course, Margaritaville. But I guess the Celebration was the one that went down to St. Martin, and it housed a bunch of people for a while. I don't know if
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
yeah, because I know Carnival's done that as well. I think they did that with the Fascination for a little bit because that was their San Juan ship, and I think Maria was like right after Irma.
Yeah, which was even worse.
Which
Crazy.
hit San Juan just as hard, pretty much. And so, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the ship that home ported there. But it is good to see, like, you know, in tragedies like this, you know, sometimes, you know, the cruise lines will step up and kind of help out, you know, especially because, you know, those islands are where they make their money. I mean, you gotta take care of them. You know, if something bad happens, you want to take care of them to keep them happy, for one.
Right.
And also make sure that, you know, the place is nice and still okay when you start taking your guests there.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the cruise lines are really good with that, which is good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got good relations with these islands, so
Yeah.
good job, cruise lines.
I think it was, I don't know which one specifically. I think it was maybe like the Fantasy and like Jubilee or something, like the original Jubilee or something like that. But like I know after Katrina, like at least 2 Carnival ships were just docked in New Orleans for the longest time.
Yeah. Yeah, if any place needed it, it was New Orleans. That was...
Well, yeah, New
that was
Orleans
rough.
got... I remember that one, and like seeing that one coming up, and that was a crazy storm.
Yeah.
Because that one like clipped like just the bottom part of Florida, but then just blew up in the Gulf.
Yeah, we got hit hard from Katrina in our area back when, you know, I was living there as a kid. That whole season was rough. We got Rita outer bands, we got Katrina as it was strengthening, and then we got Wilma later that year, which was really bad. But
they went all the way into like the Greek alphabet that year, like a couple into it too. There was a lot of storms that year. But yeah, I mean, like I haven't really, you know, experienced something like that or stuff like that. I've had smaller storms cause like reroutes and stuff like that. I guess, you know, you can kind of loop that into, it wasn't really hurricane season, but it was more of just like you know, storms in general. You know, cruise lines can at least kind of forecast and stuff like that. They have their own meteorologists.
Right.
But, you know, when I was on the Carnival Vista, we were, you know, there was some really rough weather expected in Grand Turk one day, or the day we were supposed to be there. So we ended up doing our itinerary reversed. And so we ended up going to Grand Turk last. So, you know, it was pretty rough seas for them for a good bit there, but it really wasn't anything bad. You know, thankfully, we probably would have been hit pretty hard had we gone straight into it, though. That was a cool, too. That was a cool cruise, too, and like a cool day, because I don't know if you've ever seen the picture. It like only happened once, but it was like the Magic and the Vista docked together when she was brand new. That's the day I was there on it. We got rerouted there, or like the rescheduling ended up causing us to be there with the Magic, which was super cool at the time.
Yeah, for real. But what about you, Dimitri? Have you ever had any hurricane disruptions?
No, not hurricane disruptions. We don't really cruise during this time of the year. I mean, we've been in, caught a couple storms and had itineraries changed, but not ever come back a day late or go get in early a day. But I mean, it just happens so much. I mean, I'm surprised that it hasn't happened to us, but
for real,
in general,
it really does seem like it
more than people expect.
It happens more than you expect, but at the same time, it is a very rare scenario. I feel like. It's,
I mean, it's gotta happen,
It's gotta happen in the right spot.
Right, it's gotta be in the right spot, it's gotta be on the right day, like it could come in during the week and then you don't have to worry about it, so it's...
Right, like the weekend cruises.
Main thing is, say that again?
Like the ships that leave out on the weekend, like prime example would be my parents' cruise. Like all they did was get rerouted.
Right.
And I was gonna say that's the right spot.
Right, that's the main issue is when you get like a strong storm that just comes right through the Caribbean. And that's really where the disruption happens. It's pretty rare to have it happen on like the day of. I mean, even this year with Helene just a few days ago, Grandeur was supposed to, or no, she was, Paradise and Serenade were supposed to come in on Thursday, but we had the storm. So I know we say it's rare, but it literally just happened a few days ago, almost a week ago,
right?
Where it happened on the day of a embarkation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I guess the day of landfall, or that rough time frame. I really do think it's rare. Yeah, it definitely happens. I'd say it happens at least like once a year. But at the same time, if you're cruising all 52 weeks out of the year, I mean, you're doing hundreds and hundreds of cruises a year. I mean,
you're bound to get something.
You're bound to get something. Something's going to happen eventually. It's kind of like the freak accidents that happen. Like, you make a misjudgment, you kind of tap the side of a dock, stuff like that. I mean, it happens.
It happens, man.
I mean, it happened. I mean, I do it in Virtual Sailor, but no. But like, I mean, there was like, I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago when Harmony was here in Canaveral. Like, she just barely just tapped the back of a dock as she was coming into Falmouth. Like stuff like that happens. The Disney ships hit a dock. Like just freak accidents. I mean, it's
Celebrity in Alaska.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I was saying was, did you guys see Caribbean Princess? She's in Norway. I think it was in Tromsø. Like yesterday, she got freed from her moorings because it was too windy, and she hit the pier or the dock. Ooh. She sustained damage.
Wow.
An extra day.
Sheesh.
I just saw it on the news like 20 minutes before we started.
Oh, wow. Did not know that. No wonder I haven't heard that yet.
Jeez.
That's crazy. I think I've seen, I don't think it was to that extent, but I think it was like a couple of the lines on Primo when she was brand new, like 2 years ago. Something like that happened. I don't know where it was. But it was, there's.
It was in New York, right? Was there a video of it?
There's a video of it. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. I don't think it was in New York though. I don't know where it was.
It was in Iceland. Was it not up in Iceland?
I bet you that was it.
Huh.
I bet you that was it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weather can be very interesting when it comes to the cruise lines.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think. Usually they kind of do the right thing, and it's good that they do the right thing. A lot of the times it is very frustrating. They do the best they can. At the end of the day, they are a business. You can't just hand out free cruises because something bad happened. It's kind of just
weather. I know a lot of people are pissed.
Exactly.
But you can't control the weather, and it's not their fault. So
right, exactly.
Bad reviews out.
It's like most of the time they'll give you some sort of onboard credit, or they'll give you a discounted next cruise. Like, honestly, that's for something that they can't prevent and they have no control over or even predict. Like, it's pretty generous in my opinion. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I haven't personally gone through it, but at the same time, like, there's nothing that you could do about it. There's nothing that they could do about it. You know, the fact that they're giving you something is, I would say, something's better than nothing.
Right, yeah, that's what I don't understand. You know, they complain and complain, but at the same time, like maybe you miss your flight. You know, you missed a day of work because you're supposed to get
Yeah.
home, but you're on a cruise. Like there could be worse places
Yeah.
to be. You know,
Right, exactly. And I know that was kind of, you know, that was a little bit, you know, when we were talking to Brady while we were at the port the other day, you know, yeah, I'm sure it sounded pretty frustrating because, you know, the flight home got canceled, or he had to cancel his flight home that was on the day of debark. Then the ship ended up coming in late and another flight got canceled, so all those change fees, but you know, the cruise lines typically will cover those. But yeah, I mean, when there's a giant hurricane coming through, they're honestly the safest place to be is out at sea because you can get away from it.
right? Yeah, absolutely. That's why when it happens, just go with it. There's nothing you can do about it anyways. You can
Right,
complain and
exactly.
complain all you want, but you're not gonna be able to do anything.
And
So,
it is
just enjoy it.
it is cruising during hurricane season as well. It's this time of year, especially September, even October. It just happens. Like it's
Right.
this is
All the way
the
back
time
to
of
June.
year. Yeah, even in June. I mean, there was a big hurricane back in June, which was crazy.
Yeah, Cat 5 going right through the middle of the Caribbean in the end of June, early July, which was extremely
Not-
rare.
Yeah, that's extremely rare.
Usually
Where did
you
that-
have big Caribbean storms like this time of year, like you said. Early in the season, you watch the storms that come off of Africa.
Usually just like
Early in the
depressions.
season, you watch the Caribbean. Middle of the season, you watch Africa, and then getting into where we're at now is when you start watching the Caribbean. So it's going to be an interesting next few months because we had kind of a delayed hurricane season. So I'm curious to see how the rest of the season goes. I'm kind of, I kind of think it's going to be busy. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with
I
all
mean,
ships coming back.
Yeah, that too. That's the crazy part because usually when you get to, you know, this time of year, not everything is over here, and that's also why a lot of the cruise lines put ships over in Europe, put ships over in Alaska, stuff like that. You know, and you're also going to find really good cruise deals this time of year because this type of thing is more likely to happen. You know, people don't cruise during
Right.
hurricanes because obviously it's not ideal. You run the risk of your cruise getting canceled. You run the risk of, you know, being stuck out at sea, or even just being in bad weather in the first place. But that's also why the cruises are so cheap this time of year.
Oh,
Right,
August,
yeah,
I guess pick me.
Right. I mean, again, if you're gonna have a giant hurricane coming through, the best place to be is out at sea because you can literally get away from it. You know, if you see it coming and you can, you know, if you can plan far enough ahead, you can get out and away out of the path of the storm before it comes through. You know, that's the safest way to be, really.
Right. Yeah. Like you said, that's one of the few good things about hurricanes is you can see them coming for sometimes 2 weeks. I mean, you know, if it's a big storm, you could usually see it while it's sitting over Africa, you know, kind of working its way into the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So when you have even a week of leeway, you know, of time to prepare, it helps. So, and given, you know, how big the Caribbean is with all the ports, it helps, and you can just kind of go around it, and you can make an interesting itinerary out of it.
Yeah, Hurricane Ian, I feel like is an example of that too. Is like we saw that thing. That thing was just like a monster, just like crawling all the way up.
Yep, we saw it before it even crossed through the Leeward Islands. They knew, and when they saw it over there, they knew it was going to come up into the Eastern Gulf, which is insane.
Yeah, they knew they could tell the exact path and everything like that. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that thing moved so slow as well. That's got to be one of the slowest moving storms. This Helene ripped. You know, she was in and out within a day.
Had like 2 or 3 days note. I mean, they knew about it, but they started putting it on the news like 2 or 3 days beforehand.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. I mean, we definitely had a proper warning. And I mean, again, hurricane season. I mean, there's another system that's possibly developing right now in the Caribbean. Luckily, it doesn't seem like it's going to be nearly as strong, but it definitely could have some sort of impact. But, you know, we have, you know, enough of a warning that I'm sure a lot of cruise lines are starting to make preparations in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And the ships usually what do you call it? Bring on extra supplies during the hurricane season just to have it.
Just in case.
Yeah,
you can
they'd
never
rather have it and not use it than.
Right.
It's a lot easier to get it beforehand than to hear about a storm coming and then they're like, oh, let's get extra supplies.
Except for
Right.
Carnival Paradise.
Right, except for Paradise.
She was kind of low on fuel. That's why she came in so early, right?
That's what I heard. I don't know how accurate it is, but I did hear it from someone at the port.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat says they're on Horizon next Saturday, watching real close. Yeah, I think you'll be okay.
You'll be fine. I think it's just going to be a big rain event.
Yeah, I think that storm's not supposed to get more than like a tropical storm, and really tropical storms aren't really that impactful for sure.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, and it's moving up into the Gulf and then east into Florida early next week. So you should be fine. I wouldn't worry
Especially
about it.
if you're going on Horizon out of Miami, you should be completely fine.
Yes.
It'll be over and done with, as long as it doesn't change any sort of pace. But yeah, it shouldn't.
Right.
But yeah.
We've come to the end of our discussion.
Honestly, I'm just like trying to think of additional things. Like we really kind of hit everything, really.
No, we didn't really think this through. We could talk about the scenario that happened in Tampa with the storm because that was pretty recent.
Yeah, perfect.
So basically, we had the hurricane on Thursday. It came up the coast. It made landfall in the Big Bend late Thursday night.
Right.
Carnival Paradise and Serenade of the Seas were supposed to come in on Thursday. They obviously couldn't. So Royal Caribbean right off the bat delayed Serenade to Sunday. Okay? So Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Paradise said we'll be in Friday. All right, we'll see. The storm's moving fast. Maybe it'll happen. The port never reopened until Friday night. So the Paradise came in at like 10 o'clock Friday night. Okay? Then it left at like 8 a.m. the following day, so Saturday, right? Am I on this? No, it came in Saturday night, late Saturday night. Sunday morning at 8 a.m., it pulled off the pier and went to the cargo berth because her cruise was canceled. She was supposed to be back on Monday, so they just didn't want to take the ship out for a day and bring it back with people. So they just canceled it. So the ship went to the cargo pier and sat there. And then around 11 a.m., Grandeur, Enchantment, and Serenade came in. So it was a 3 Royal Caribbean ship day, and that's what the videos were about that Brandon posted. So then kind of late Sunday, all 4 ships actually left, including the Paradise.
Yeah.
But also on Sunday, the Margaritaville ship was supposed to come in, but because Royal pushed their sailings back, they pushed the Islander back. So instead of coming in on Sunday, it came in on Monday with the Paradise. And now they're both out on their cruises. So it took a few days really to get the ships back in kind of a working order. Grandure's coming back tomorrow from her altered cruise. And then the rest come back like on Saturday and whatever. But it took a few days to really get the ships back on track, especially with the Coast Guard not opening the port for a while. And even I think Brady said coming back in, he said that there was a lot of debris in the water coming in.
That's not surprising at all.
Yeah, it was a very interesting couple days.
Yeah, seeing how much stuff was just thrown around. Davis Island is like the little area that we ship spot from out over there, but like that island is just destroyed.
Yeah, they had a big storm surge. The houses that are just on the other side of the road from where we ship spot had 20 inches of water in the house. And that's coming up over the seawall and across the street. So they probably had 6 to 7 feet of storm surge in that area. And that was with the hurricane. It was a category 4, so it's something. But it was 100 miles off our coast, and it did that.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Again, like I said at like the beginning of it, like Florida is very, hurricane proof for the most part, but it's the storm surge is typically the scariest part. If you're like a couple miles inland and you're most houses are built up to code to withstand a category 5, because they do happen. That in itself isn't too bad, but it's the flooding from the storm surge typically, and as long as they don't dump enough rain, you're typically okay.
Yeah, I mean, even Ian is a great example. 2 years ago, it was it was a Cat 4 at landfall technically, but it did hit Category 5 just before it made landfall. But when you looked at the damage, like the day or two after, everything that was like right along the coast was completely wiped out from the storm surge. But everything maybe 5 miles in, and I'm not saying that within that 5 mile everything was destroyed, just really everything along the coast. But once you got inland from that, everything else was it was pretty significant, but it was just wind damage, really. Like, there weren't any completely collapsed houses, no big roof damage. That after Andrew in 92, they really upped the code, and that's what all these houses are built up to. Yeah. And you can see after every hurricane, you can see which houses were before 92 and which ones were after 92. So it's really just the storm surge that's the real big issue for these coastal communities. I mean, even up in the Big Bend the other day, I think they had almost 20 feet of storm surge in certain places.
Yeah. Luckily that area that it hit was very low populated. There's not that many, but it was also, it's big enough to where it spanned from Tallahassee basically down to Tampa. But like all that space in there.
Huge bullet.
Yeah, they did. They got their butt kicked by Memphis, and they almost got their butt kicked by Hurricane Helene as well.
Yeah, they've got those big oak trees that don't do too well in high winds, and that's like the whole area. So it would have been bad.
One of my really good friends from high school lives in Augusta, Georgia, and his house had about 6 trees on the top of it. It was either four or 5 or 6 trees that were just laying on top of his house, and his entire driveway, his Jeep was like completely missing because it was just underneath all the trees, but like his driveway was just all green for all the trees that were laying down. I don't know, I don't even think he's got like power and stuff like that still, but like he's just pretty much going around
crazy.
Do what?
The pictures from like Georgia and Tennessee from all the flooding.
Oh, absolutely.
They're like obviously not used to all that water, and it just got over, like it disintegrated, but all the rain just like stayed there.
Yeah, it's painful to see, especially Asheville, North Carolina. They seem to be, that place is just wiped off the map at this point. It's really sad to see.
Did you see that one picture of, I don't know what the little town was called, but it was like within like a mountain like valley, and it was like one main road, and there was like,
it was like Biltmore or something like that, or
all gone, completely gone.
Yeah, it's sad actually. So I'm kind of from the North Georgia area. A lot of my friends that still live up there, a lot of them are taking like their big trucks and chainsaws and stuff like that, and they're just going up to North Carolina, and just trying to cut down trees and stuff like that, and just like help as much as they can up there. Like, there's nobody's doing anything about it. Like, there's no sort of relief or any sort of, there's nothing, no sort of help from anybody up there. So pretty much people from Georgia and surrounding areas are heading in to try to help them out. That's my friend in Augusta's doing. He finally freed his Jeep from all those trees in his driveway, and he's just going around, and he's like, hey, like if you've got like trees on top of your house and stuff like that, like let me know, and I'll cut them up and like help get the trees removed, stuff like that. It's crazy. Like it's good to see like the local communities coming together in like a thing like tragedy like that, but it's painful to see how devastated some of the places are.
Yeah, it's tough, and that's very far inland from where the storm made landfall.
Those places are not made for that. It's just
that thing was moving quick, and it was strong, so it took forever for it to die down, and then it just dumps just so much rain.
Because it was like with it moving so quickly, it didn't have a chance to die. Like, it was still moving so fast at such a strong pace because it was going so fast. Yep. So like like with Irma, like we saw Irma in Georgia, but it was like a Category 1 when it went through Atlanta. But that's also how strong it was. But like it went from like a Cat 4 when it hit Miami and went straight up the center of Florida, which that was a crazy one.
Yeah, we got hit hard. I was down at my parents' house during that. I think we had gusts over 100 in that one. That was a tough one.
Yeah, I remember like
thank God.
That's good. Yeah, I remember like in Georgia it was crazy. Like everything closed down for the day. Obviously, like, you know, that's how it normally is for a hurricane, but like everything shut down. Like it was kind of like weird. That doesn't happen up there. And the main cause of all the power outages and stuff like that is because, you know, palm trees are there and survive in Florida because they can survive a hurricane. Oak trees and the 100-foot pine trees and stuff like that. I mean, they have 100-foot tall pine trees and stuff like that just everywhere in Georgia, and they are brutal. They're bad. They do not last very long in a bad storm.
Yeah, because the roots once the roots get wet, they just fall over.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, like we would get like tornadoes all the time there, but obviously like a tornado is going to rip up anything that's on the ground. But like, I mean, yeah, hurricanes, you know, we just don't get those up there. Are you teasing the dog?
Always trying to rile her up.
Good stuff. But yeah, it's, you know, yeah, Helene did some damage in places that really shouldn't have seen a hurricane. And wasn't it like a giant, like a big storm system was like coming the other direction? That's kind of like what pushed it too. So like they came together.
Yeah, almost. It merged with a I think they call it a cutoff low, which is basically like a cold front coming through, like a low pressure coming through that broke off from the main. So the main like trough. So it kind of was sitting there over like Louisiana and stuff, and that's kind of what guided Helene up into Florida. And then it kind of, they call it the Fujiwara effect, where they kind of like spin around each other, and it kind of just absorbed into it, and that's why it rains so much.
Right.
Something like that. I'm not a meteorologist, but something like that.
Close enough.
Right, Snail? Yeah, she knows.
But yeah, like it also just dumped so much rain, and like obviously those are mountain towns too. So like not only did they get a lot of rain in like those specific areas, but then all the rain coming from the tops of the mountains pouring down the side of the mountains into the towns too. It was not a good combination. It's terrible to see everything that happened.
I think it's just my laptop.
What happened? Oh, you're just talking to
my camera is all dirty.
Oh, yeah. He needs to get a new laptop.
I'm a dirty boy. That didn't sound right. I take it back.
That's good enough. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of like additional things. We kind of burned through this conversation a little bit quicker than I anticipated.
Yeah, whoops.
But I mean, I feel like we talked about a lot today. It was just everything happened so fast, or I think we talked so fast.
She just sneezed.
But yeah, any like, I guess we'll probably go ahead and call it soon. But like, anything else you guys want to add to it before we start wrapping up?
My hurricane videos will be coming soon. The actual hurricane video is live on my second channel now. If you guys want to check that out, it's very long. It's pretty good towards the end.
Really?
You know, whatever. My non-cruise channel, even though I do post cruise stuff on there, but check it out. But yeah, Brandon's video is live. What?
I see in the chat. Speaking of storms, did we see what happened with Ovation? I did not see what happened with Ovation. What happened with Ovation?
In Alaska.
In Alaska?
What's going on in Alaska?
Like a crazy storm in Alaska, and a couple ships got delayed. They had to stay in port. I think of Koningsdam, Eurodam, and somebody else, but I don't know what specifically happened to Ovation. But I do know that a lot of ships got rerouted there, like literally last week.
I think I think someone said like they went on an Alaskan cruise and like didn't go to any ports.
Yeah, so I have Cruise Hive pulled up here. It says cruise ships cancel Alaska ports due to high winds. High winds in the region made it challenging for cruise ships to dock in two top Alaskan ports over next 2 days of 2024. Let's see. Yeah. So update was shared by Visit Sitka as the cancellations were confirmed. 3 cruise lines were impacted by poor weather. Royal, Holland, and Silver Sea. Due to expected adverse weather conditions, Silver Wind will be canceling their port tomorrow on the 30th. Nordam and Ovation of the Seas will be canceling ports of call on Tuesday, the October 1st. So today.
Or yesterday.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yesterday. Just kidding. Today's the 2nd.
Yeah, but why is Alaska having a storm? What the heck?
Yeah, that was what I was just thinking is,
I mean, I know it
that's
rains
crazy
there,
to think that they're having like a crazy storm. I mean, I don't know. I guess cold weather typically can have pretty harsh conditions. So maybe it was just a crazy cold weather storm. But yeah, I mean, I guess being from Florida, I only think of tropical storms, I guess. I never really think of, these cold weather like storms, I guess. But I guess they happen everywhere, technically.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I mean, what are they? They're called cyclones down under, I think. But
down under, yeah,
cyclones.
Typhoons.
Typhoons are over like in Asia and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's really like a worldwide thing. I mean, there's not really many places that don't get, some sort of like crazy tropical sort of weather like that, or I guess, crazy weathers. Maybe Europe.
Yeah, everywhere gets something crazy.
Europe, I feel like it's nothing.
Or hurricanes or tornadoes.
They get storms in Europe, and they just had like that hurricane last year. What was it called? They called it something. It began with an M.
Oh, that was one that like went out to sea and then it ended up over like by England, but at that point it was like really cold.
No. It's a hurricane that hit Greece. It came off of like by Egypt and hit Greece and Italy.
How the what?
That's rare.
Yeah.
How in the world did that happen?
Too. Let me look at it.
Dimitri's Greek, so that's how he knew it.
He has the know that what do you call it? He just has the know of all of Greece.
His Greece senses are tingling. He's like, I sense a storm over in my homelands.
Yeah, my toes twitching.
My toes are twitching.
There must be a storm in Greece.
It was called.
Was it an actual hurricane?
Yeah, it was like winds. Okay, so
it probably wasn't like a hurricane, but it was probably like some kind of low pressure that was going through there.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, September 4th, 2023, hurricane affected Greece, Bulgaria, Italy, and Turkey. Extensive flooding. Yeah, so they call it a cyclone, but it was called something else.
I think we're the only region that really calls them hurricanes.
Well, everywhere's got different names from, but yeah.
Yeah.
30 inches of rain when it normally only rains 2 inches during the summer.
Dang. That's not good.
Yeah. The winds were only good, but that's to have a hurricane there, period, is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I really know if that has ever happened like recently other than that one time. How strong was it? Was it like just a category 1 or
80 miles an hour? So I don't know. Is that a 2?
It's a 1.
1, yeah. 75 is like just crossing.
It's like 75 to
90,
90, 90, something like that.
Yeah, that's
once
crazy.
You get to like 100, it's like a 2, something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy though.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, shorter podcast, but
yeah, a bit of a shorter podcast. It was a fun conversation, though. Yeah, we kind of blew through the topic a little quicker than we expected.
Sorry, I get excited when we talk cruise and weather.
Oh, I know. That's like his two big things.
And monorails, but that's not really on topic.
And monorails.
Unless they put on a cruise ship, we can really talk about it.
Then we could. I was gonna say we can't really talk about those two together unless they pulled something off kind of crazy.
Come on, Royal. You do things like that.
You can do it, Royal. We know
come on.
You know you will. All right. Well, thank you for everybody that's been listening, watching. Thanks to everybody here in the live chat here on YouTube, and of course anybody listening all the way to this point on Spotify or Apple. And hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next week for another podcast episode. Have a good night, everyone.
Peace out, everyone.